Welcome back, my friends. Currently, we're on day 355 of Russia's disastrous invasion of Ukraine, and Russia has likely lost half its heavy tanks in Ukraine, according to the United States. So here's the quote. Russia has probably lost half of its main battle tank stock in combat and through Ukrainian capture. This is according to the Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs, Celeste Wallander. So if we go back 1 year in time, how many tanks did the Russian military actually have? And on paper, they had just over 10,000 tanks. 10,000 T-62s, T-72s, and T-80s. The problem with Russia's tank fleet, though, is that thousands of these tanks had been sitting outside, exposed to the elements and looters, untouched for decades. So many of these tanks were never going to be serviced, never going to be fielded in combat in Ukraine. So when we check the numbers, how many tanks the Ukrainians believe they've captured or destroyed, it's about 3,300. It's roughly 1/3 of this 10,000 total. So what this means is that the United States military thinks that roughly 1/3 of Russia's 10,000 tank fleet was never serviceable. These tanks were sitting idly in open fields for too long. They were never going to see combat again. So if roughly 1/3 were never going to see combat and 1/3 have been captured or destroyed, that still leaves Russia with about 3,300 tanks. Still a lot of tanks, but this war is going horribly for Russia. And a perfect illustration is this battle at Vuhledar. Here's a tweet thread I want to share from Tataragami. He's a Ukrainian military officer currently serving in the reserves. And in this failed Russian attack, they lost over 30 armored vehicles in a single attack on a single day. Now, in my last video, I did share this satellite image, and I said that the Russians were attacking along these roads. These aren't roads. These are tree lines in between farmers' fields. So these tree lines are the only cover that you can have if you're trying to advance one direction or another. So both Ukrainians and Russians are frequently shelling these tree lines. But the Russians are still attempting to advance basically right next to the tree lines. They're not offering much cover, but where else are you going to advance? And this attack that the Russians attempted a couple days ago blew up in their faces. Apparently, it really started to fall apart when the commander of the 14th Spetsnaz Brigade, a Colonel Sergei Palikov, was killed in the attack. So once the guy leading the charge was killed, it just went off the rails and went horribly for the Russians. In my last video, I shared a couple videos on Twitter. I can't play the videos because I can't show violence on YouTube, but I will include these videos in a pinned comment down below, and I think this video right here shows best just how dumb the Russian military is. Bunching their vehicles together, as soon as one is hit or hits a landmine, they just drive around it and then they hit the next landmine. They're not learning at all. And here is an update from a Ukrainian defender in the area making an interesting observation.
Тут с русскими войсками трохи рубимся. Пришла ко мне такая гениальная мысль. Нас все-таки украинскую армию с российским командованием объединяет одна очень важная вещь. Нам похрену, сколько сдохнет русских. И российскому командованию тоже похрену, сколько сдохнет русских. Работаем?
So the Ukrainian military and Russian high command have something in common. They don't care how many Russian soldiers are killed. More videos, once again, I'll include it in the pinned comment down below. The lesson learned was don't give your Russian soldiers vehicles because we don't want the vehicles to be destroyed. So Russia is continuing with these human wave attacks of Russian soldiers just charging into defended Ukrainian positions. There also is a video online of the Russian soldiers going out under a flag of truce to collect their dead. Both the Ukrainian and the Russian military do this. They talk to each other in order to clear the fields of fallen soldiers. I think this is the correct thing to do. But this video is of a Russian soldier filming the damage and devastation from the Vuhledar attack. Once again, I'll include it in the pinned comment down below. The Wagner Group claims advance on Bakhmut continues as another village has been captured. And before we get to the military map, let me first welcome back the sponsor of today's video, Ground News. Now here on the channel, I've mentioned Ground News to you before, but what I want to tell you guys is I personally am using Ground News every day now. It's the first website I go to when I start researching for my update videos. And what Ground News is it's a news aggregation website that exposes the bias and leanings of various news organizations. So when you go on their website or mobile app, you'll be given news topics in real time, such as this one. Moldova's president outlines Russian plan to topple their government. What Ground News will do is they will tell you how many news sources have covered this, so far 40. It will tell you the bias distribution of these various news sites. It will even tell you the ownership of the news organizations and their factuality. They have other features such as the time and location of the story. But what I like about Ground News is that you can sort all of the sites reporting on this topic by their political leaning, and then you can compare the wording of the title or the wording of the article to see the bias of that news organization. So if we sort by left-leaning organizations, here's Vice. It leans left, mixed factuality. It's actually owned by the Walt Disney Company. And look at this title. Russia is plotting to overthrow the government of Moldova, President warns. This is a pretty declarative statement on this topic. But if we sort by right-leaning organizations, for example, the Washington Times, here's the title. Moldova's president outlines Russian plan to topple government. Plan being in quotation marks because this is an allegation. So it's just very interesting to see how different news organizations will cover the same story. If you want to stay up to date and have transparency in your news, check out Ground News. You can either go to their website and try it or sign up for unlimited access. Be sure to use my link, ground.news/jakebro, so they know I sent you. So Russia's Wagner Group claims it has captured the village of Krasnohora. When we go on the military map, where exactly is this? And here's the city of Bakhmut, and Krasnohora is about 3 or 4 kilometers north of Bakhmut. This is a tiny village with barely 7 or 8 roads in it, but Russia's going to continue to celebrate every inch of land they take. And Russia can't take the city of Bakhmut by directly assaulting it. So their master plan for the last couple months has just been to slowly creep around the edges and hopefully encircle the city. Now, the Ukrainians' last reliable supply line goes through this village of Chasiv Yar. If this single road is effectively cut off, then the Ukrainian defenders in the city can't be resupplied food, water, and ammunition. I argue at that point it's in the Ukrainian military's best interest to fall back and take up better fortified positions. For an update from Bakhmut, let me share this clip with you from a chaplain in the city of Bakhmut. His name is Mark.
Дорогі друзі, всім вітання від капелана з Бахмуту. Пару слів про обстановку в місті, бо зараз це предмет гострих дискусій, найбільших обговорень. Друзі, я підтверджую ту інформацію, що тут дуже важко, дуже складно. Ви, мабуть, це чуєте від усіх, і це правда. Словами не передати, як тут тяжко. Але повірте, Збройні сили роблять все, що можуть. Вони виконують завдання з ризиком для життя. Вони віддають найдорожче, аби відстояти соборність України, її територіальну цілісність, її національний суверенітет відстояти наш народ, наше майбутнє, майбутнє наших дітей. Тому, друзі, підтримуйте Збройні Сили України всіма можливими способами. Моліться за нас, допомагайте і вірте, що прийде час і ми обов'язково переможемо. А поки що робимо все, щоб це настало найскоріше. Нехай Бог береже і благословляє кожного із вас. Разом до перемоги.
Bakhmut continues to hold. And I know for a lot of you watching these YouTube update videos, you've been incredibly frustrated by the Ukrainian military with the situation in Bakhmut. Why are the Russians continuing to advance in the Donbass region? And there have been lots of clips similar to this one recently circulating of troop concentrations of Ukrainian defenders. But I think these Ukrainian troop concentrations are in other areas. I do believe that the Ukrainian military was hoping to go on the offensive this winter, either in the Luhansk region or the Zaporizhia region. It is important to remember that the Ukrainian military has already demonstrated twice that they're very effective at conducting large-scale offensives, retaking the Kharkiv region, retaking the north bank of the Dnieper River in the Kherson region. So more than likely, I think the Ukrainian military was planning something big, but not in the Donbass region. That is not where they were concentrating their forces. The marching orders for the Ukrainian defenders near Bakhmut is just hold, just shoot at anyone who tries to attack you. And I don't think a major winter offensive is going to happen now for two reasons. The first one is the weather never got cold enough. It didn't cooperate for moving heavy equipment through muddy fields. The other reason is that there's been a huge escalation in Western aid coming from NATO countries. So here's a clip I want to share with you of an aid ship docking in Germany.
Bremerhaven am frühen Freitagmorgen. Die Integrity hat an einem Anlegeplatz festgemacht. In ihrem Inneren sollen sich laut US-Behörden über 60 Bradley-Schützenpanzer befinden, bestimmt für die Ukraine. Die Fahrzeuge sollen den ukrainischen Streitkräften zusätzliche Offensiv- und Defensivfähigkeit.
So this is the Integrity. I did show the clip 2 weeks ago when it left the United States. It has now reached Bremerhaven, Germany, and it's carrying 60 M2 Bradleys, numerous Humvees, as well as other military equipment. And if you remember, about 500 Ukrainian defenders went to Germany in early January to begin training on the M2 Bradley. So their training course was about 6 or 7 weeks. These Bradleys are getting off the boat at the perfect time. More than likely, these Bradleys will have competent operators in the country of Ukraine on the front lines, probably by March. So if you're the Ukrainians, why not just wait to go on the offensive until you at least have these Bradley infantry fighting vehicles? In addition, every update video I give, there's a country somewhere in the world stepping up their aid to Ukraine. Pakistan has agreed to send 10,000 MLRS Grad missiles to Ukraine from its stockpiles. The deliveries are being made through Poland via a German port. Now, this is not a donation. Pakistan is selling these missiles to the Ukrainians. But across the world, there's a competition currently happening. Both the Russians are looking to buy back old Soviet equipment that they can use in this war, as well as Western countries offering cash for any old Soviet stockpile, ammunition, parts, equipment, whatever. Pakistan could have sold these Grad rockets to the Russians, but they instead decided to sell it to the Western allies, and it's now being given to Ukraine, so thank you very much, Pakistan. Here's a tweet that's pretty interesting. Ukrainian foreign minister has warned of great events on February 24th that Russia will remember. So I know that President Biden is planning a trip to Poland to meet with the Polish president as well as probably President Zelensky. I've also heard the rumor that President Zelensky wants to travel to New York in order to address the UN Body Assembly on the one-year anniversary. So as we approach February 24th, coming up in 10 days, there's going to be a lot of propaganda and PR stunts in order to drum up support for Ukraine and to make Russia look as bad as possible. And while I argue Ukraine's military is getting stronger every day, the Russian military and the Russian economy gets weaker and weaker. So Credit Suisse Bank has officially frozen $19 billion worth of Russian assets inside of Switzerland. This accounts for 1/3 of all Russian assets in the country. And to put this number in perspective, just remember that last December, the US Congress passed this assistance package worth $45 billion. That's a lot of money. And Switzerland just froze $19 billion. So the longer this war drags on, I'm going to argue that more and more of this money will be legally found a way to help with the reconstruction of Ukraine, if not direct military aid to Ukraine. So Russia's money trapped outside of Russia is going to be used to help defeat Russia. More bad news for Prigozhin especially, but there's reports saying that the Kremlin has banned the mention of Prigozhin or the Wagner mercenaries on all Russian propaganda TV channels. So on Kremlin state TV, they're not going to mention this guy anymore. They're not going to mention the Wagner mercenaries. Now, the public explanation might be the Wagner mercenaries have failed to take the city of Bakhmut, so Prigozhin is being punished. But the Russian military doesn't really punish incompetence. So more than likely, Prigozhin has just been doing too much on social media to promote himself. Amongst military bloggers, they really like Prigozhin for his Russian machoism and his barbarity. And in a dictatorship, he broke the cardinal rule that you're not allowed to be more popular than the boss. So Putin himself is starting to worry about the high-profile status of Prigozhin and the Wagner mercenaries. So at the moment, he's being put in the penalty box. He might be taken out by Putin at some point in the future, or, he might fall out a window next week. I don't think anyone in Russia is really going to remember this guy. And on the front lines, every week there's another video going viral of mobilized Russian men saying they're being treated terribly and they need help from anyone in the Russian government that doesn't want them to die. This clip is 3 minutes. I'm not going to play it. I'll put it in the pinned comment down below, but let me just read this one sentence to you. We appeal to the governor of the Kaliningrad Oblast to take some constructive measures as we are literally being sent to be slaughtered. So these are mobilized Russian men from Kaliningrad, and their commander in the DPR doesn't really care if they live or die. Similar to soldiers, once again, videos of Russian wives and mothers filming these very sad videos asking anyone for help as their sons and husbands are being butchered on the front lines.
Уважаемый Рустам Миргалиевич, коллектив жен и матерей мобилизованных из Татарстана, военная часть 29-655, полк 12-31, обращается к вам с просьбой вмешаться в ситуацию, которая имеет место быть в рядах армии Донецкой Народной Республики. Мы надеемся на вашу помощь.
So this group of women, they're from Tatarstan, and I guarantee you nobody in Moscow cares about the people of Tatarstan. Here's a clip. I'm just going to play it. It's pretty self-explanatory. Let's watch that again. So it really is like the 1800s again in Russia. We have an all-powerful czar, and the slaves to the czar get on their knees when addressing him. I'm trying to picture any other free people in the world in which they're fighting a war, and the people are filming random videos for the internet, hoping anyone cares about them. And they're getting on their knees and begging for help. Something interesting about this clip is there's a World War II memorial in the background, and the year 1941 is when the Russians say World War II started, because in 1940 they were allied with the Nazis and invaded Poland. So, yay Russia. So what the heck is going on with Russian politics? And Russian politicians are hoping that Putin will announce his plans for the end of the war in Ukraine. They want him to achieve a quick victory this year with no further mobilization and no closing of Russia's borders. So the independent media outlet We Can Explain has been interviewing deputies about their expectations for Putin's next annual national address on the 21st of February. It's widely expected to be about his plans for the war as it enters its second year. So Putin is going to give a big speech on February 21st. This is next week, and he's got to come up with something. He's got to give some explanation why his special limited military operation is going into its second year. And is a big Russian offensive actually coming? I honestly can't tell you. But Russia lacks the resources to launch a massive anniversary offensive. This is according to a Ukrainian military intelligence agent. And I do think that Russia would like to launch a major offensive, attack from everywhere, make rapid gains, capture cities of significant size and strategic value, but maybe it's not possible. It just isn't going to happen. Russia's slave army, they're poorly equipped, poorly trained, poorly motivated. There's just a lot of infighting amongst these various factions within the Russian military, from Shoigu, Prigozhin, Kadyrov, the DPR, LPR fighters. It's just complete anarchy in the Russian military currently. Last couple clips I have for you. The first one is from a Ukrainian defender that has a very special message for you. Don't forget to smile. Don't forget to value every day of life that you have. The final clip is of Ukrainian defenders just showing off, and they're going to show you their impressive dugout.
Searching for greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless, a sea of the aimless. I don't want to be one of the nameless. I'ma wake up with the mindset that one day I'm gonna make it, and I don't think I'll be fine if I don't break my limitations. Don't try to stop me, I exist to write my own story. I'll make a decision if I want some peace or if I want the glory. Yeah, don't want a life that is complacent or possibly boring. I just want a life that is worth every day exploring. My whole life I just wanted someone who would notice.
Okay, that's pretty impressive, and this place is nicer than anywhere I lived during college. That's all for this video. Thank you again to Ground News for sponsoring this video. Check out the link in the pinned comments. Glory to the heroes, glory to Ukraine. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Also, comment or question if you have any. Love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, take care, be safe.